Actually start Littleton Conservation Commission hearing April 18th, 2023 on Zoom. What we're going to do is go ahead and start with the approval of minutes. We have 3 sets that we're going to go through. What I'd like to do is to start with the March 21st, 2023, the 6:30 Zoom meeting, which was the discussion of the Chapter 91, which was a special training. Does anybody have any omissions or corrections to that draft? If not, yep, go ahead. If not, if we can have someone make a motion to approve March 21, 2023.
I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from March, was it 23rd? March 21 in the year 2023 at 6:30. Those minutes as printed.
Second that.
Okay, seconded. Roll call. Who would like to do that?
I can do that if you'd like. All right, Carl.
Tom Melberg, aye.
Chase.
Chase Gerbeck, aye.
Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
And myself, aye. It is unanimous.
Okay, and I think Kyle just joined in. Okay, the next.
What did I miss?
Oh, just one, not much, just one approval of minutes. Okay, we're going to go ahead with the second on March 21, year 2023 at 7:30. Zoom meeting. Do we have? I have a few grammatical that I can send to Tim tomorrow. Does anyone have any changes or updates on March 21, 2023?
No, I think I had the same, Sarah. I sent some things over to them and Amy already.
Okay, great. Well, I'll make a motion that this is accepted with edits being submitted to Tim.
Second that.
All those in favor?
Roll call vote. Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Chase.
Chase Gerbeck, aye.
Carl.
Tom Melberg, aye.
Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Myself, aye. It is unanimous.
Thank you. Okay, and the last will be conservation minutes from April 4th, 2023. I only had one addition that I'd like to put in, and that was on page 2 in reference to 38 Harwood. It says Richard Watson was present to describe the proposed modification to move the required plantings berm closer to the wetlands in order to better manage drainage over the septic system. And what I want to do is to just make a mention that the patio was not on the plan. So that was submitted. So that would be my only edit. Does anyone else have any other corrections or edits? If not, I would make the motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl.
Tom Melberg, aye.
Chase.
Chase Gerbeck, aye.
Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
And myself, aye. It is unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any administrative discussion items they would like to add to this evening's discussions? I have one, which is just a reminder for the Oak Hill walk. We're supposed to do that just to kind of look at the gravel. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to do that, but I'll ask that be put on the next meeting.
Did anybody have any updates on that piece of land in Westford at all?
Yes, Carl. So I'm going to bring that up at the Westford Land Trust meeting this Thursday night, and we'll see what comes of it.
All right, have you gone? You can probably go on the site there and pull up a map of it.
Yeah, I'm going to send the president a message beforehand, and it'll be on our agenda for Thursday, and we'll see what happens.
What committee is that, Andrew?
That's the Westford. That's the Westford Conservation Trust.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go down the line. Land use permit, Littleton Girl Scouts geocaching on May 7th at Long Lake Park. So Tim, I'm assuming that's a request?
Yeah, I thought we were gonna have somebody in to talk about this, but I'm guessing they just didn't show up.
They've done this before, haven't they? Commissioners?
I don't believe they have at this
Might have been
particular
the-
site. I think
Might have been the Boy Scouts, not the Girl Scouts. There is some
Yeah.
geocaching out there somewhere, I thought.
Okay,
I don't think it was the Girl Scouts. It certainly wasn't this troop because I've helped them kind of navigate what they needed to do. And I
Okay.
also wanted they were going to be joining tonight, so maybe a little bit later. I don't know. They were
Okay.
aware that they should come in and talk to us.
okay, so let's just kind of move it to the bottom of administrative discussions. LCT annual report.
That was just for if we got anything. We did not get an update on that, so there's nothing to talk about there.
Okay. We had great discussions on tree protection at the last meeting. We had talked about asking 2 or 3 members to help out with that. Anyone have any thoughts on that?
So just to add in, we did get awarded with the Tree City USA.
Oh,
So I think that opens us up to some grant opportunities.
that is really good news. Excellent. Okay, so as we discussed, we do need a couple people to work on that. Who volunteers? I think someone got voluntold they were going to do that too, that didn't come to one of the meetings. Was that Brian? Or who was that? Kyle, Brian?
Sounds like it was probably me.
I was at the meeting. I did volunteer as well, but I was at the meeting.
Okay, so we have 2 volunteers, Kyle and Brian.
Sounds good. Yep.
Okay, awesome. If the minutes can state that. Okay, open space and recreation plans, survey questions. Have they come in yet?
They have not.
Wow, it's going to be a quick one. Andrew, your thoughts on that?
It's tough. I mean, we're going to be under very short time constraints, and we're just doing the best we can to move this forward and hopefully get things in place. But yeah, it's catching up to us.
Okay.
So Andrew, what's the protocol supposed to be here? So the committee is drafting the questions, theoretically committee with consultant support is drafting the questions, looking for Concom and other boards to weigh in on the questions before they go live.
Yeah, so essentially what the firm was going to do for us was take questions that we'd used the last time around, kind of build on them, and maybe come up with some new questions that they would feel would be in relation to what we're looking to accomplish. So yeah, but the committee itself wanted Concom input as well as Park and Rec and other involved parties just to look things over and see if things could be improved or added. So hopefully...
How much latitude do we have? Let's say they come in, because the idea is to get them done in time to apply for grants down the road, right?
So the plan itself has
Ultimately, to get the plan done so that we can get that.
Yeah, so there will be a few public workshops as well, in addition to, like, say, a SurveyMonkey type survey that'll be going out to people. So it's really just getting the public input so we can use that to then craft the new plan. So it's one of the essential components before we can really move forward. But yeah.
How much latitude is there to receive individual board and commission member comments, given that things at this point sound like they could happen in between Concom meetings?
I think that would be... Oh, sorry, Chase, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was trailing off.
Oh, no. I mean, if this commission wanted to draft perhaps a letter with questions that it really felt strongly about, and if they weren't already included, certainly they could be brought up at the next committee meeting on the 22nd, I believe. And I could bring them up and have them added with the consultants, and we could go from there. I don't know how...
Have we already seen the old questions? I don't remember seeing those.
I don't believe those were sent out, no, but I can track those down.
Or Tim, do you have those? Or a
I
way
do
that,
not.
is there a way that perhaps you could track them down?
I can look into that, yeah.
Okay. Andrew, maybe if you could just guide Tim, it would be interesting for us to at least know what they're working with from the past. I don't recall what the questions were. Okay.
We will investigate.
Okay. Webster update and engineering planning and cost. Chase, I think you'll probably have an update. And then Tim, do you have an update as well?
I don't.
Okay. Chase, any thoughts on Webster?
Yeah, I think the next step is to reach out to the property owner with the wetlands delineation that Amy prepared. I met this morning with Mark Rockbacher from the Select Board, Ryan Ferrara, interim town administrator, Amy and Marin, to look that over. And the next step is for Mark and I to sit down and talk with Lyle. Mark was going to reach out to Lyle at some point today. So Lyle, if you're listening and you haven't gotten a phone call yet, Mark's going to reach out. But what we want to do is get general agreement with the property owner on the scope of the appraisal before we go spend money to do the appraisal, because the wetland footprints as outlined or as determined in the field by Amy don't match very well with what was on the GIS layer, which was the underpinning of the property owner's count of available lots. So there could be a mismatch there, and we'd like to, rather than spend a bunch of money on an appraisal that it's going to be dead on arrival because it's based on a smaller number of lots than the property owner is willing to even contemplate, we'd like to at least engage the property owner first to make sure that we're all playing in the same sandbox. And if we're not, then the property owner may want to have their own wetland delineation done or take other steps to sort of evaluate the viability of that property.
Okay, thank you. Any commissioners have any questions on Webster?
No questions. I will mention that I did walk the property with Lyle the Thursday before last, and it was a beautiful property. I mean, so we'll see what we can do moving forward.
Okay, great. Okay, and then the last was just the addition I had Oak Hill to walk the path with the aggregate, potentially with a donation of gravel. So if we could try and go out there before the next meeting, that would be great. Okay, let's see. We will start with public hearing notice of intent, 10 Ivy Road. There's not a DEP number given at this time. Upgrading for a failing cesspool. Is anyone here to address 10 Ivy Road?
Yep. Me. Hello. Alex Chongers with Chongers Engineering.
Thank you. Alex, do you have a plan that you would like to share?
Absolutely. Do I have permission to share? Yep.
Yep.
Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Awesome. All set to go?
Yep.
As at 10 Abbey Road, it's one of those old small camp lots. It had a failed cesspool, and they're looking to upgrade it to bring it to Title V compliance. It's a very tight lot, as you see. It's less than a half an acre, and I had to get quite a few variances from the Board of Health, and it was quite a lengthy process. But this is pretty much the best system we were able to come up with based on the restrictions. We're putting a Presby system in, and I push it as furthest away I can from the wetlands. I have the edge of the system about 75, 76 feet away from the bordering wetlands, which goes into Long Pond, or tributary, I guess, into it. And then we have a retaining wall that's going to be on the border to meet the Title V compliance in terms of grading. And that is going to be within 61 feet of the wetland. And I'm proposing some erosion control around there, around the limit of work. And then a stockpile area as furthest away beyond the 100-foot buffer when during the construction. And we're going to use the existing driveway as the construction entrance. and I apologize. So we have, and then there will be a few trees that do need to be removed, as you can see in here. They, 1, 2, 3, 4 are proposed. And right now it's just, the majority, the edge of lawn you can see right here. It's just kind of an old overgrown lawn, and any disturbed area that's going to be disturbed from the installation of the wetland, and we're going to either let it naturalize if it's beyond the system footprint, or if it's within the footprint, we're going to have it be a mowed lawn.
Okay, I've asked a couple questions on this
Yes,
one.
yep, go ahead.
The first question I have for you, Alex, is the footprint of the existing cesspool, and if that's in the resource area.
Yep. So the location of the existing cesspool is a little bit of unknown. Because it was destroyed, so I don't have a fully pushed picture of it, but it was within the existing lawn area. Yeah, it was roughly in this area, but again, it was crushed, and there wasn't really any available records to show the exact location of the existing cesspool.
But it would be accurate to say that this represents the magnitude of the work. There's not another area where the cesspool needs to be remediated or addressed.
Correct. There wouldn't be. Yeah, sorry, I misheard you. But there isn't any. The cesspool is not further into the wetlands that would be removed. Everything that would be disturbed in the resource area is within this footprint.
Okay.
So there's an existing structure there for a home presently, correct?
Correct. Yep. It's an old camp lot. This dwelling right here, and there's no addition being added to it. It's keeping the same footprint. No additional bedrooms and things like that.
And how long has it been laid that no one's been in there?
I don't know the exact date, but I know my client bought it within the 2 years. So I'm assuming 1 to 2 years.
Can you
My other
talk?
question for you, Alex, is I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
The 4 trees, if I am counting correctly, the 4 trees that need to be removed.
Yep.
I'm going to say one of the things we're probably going to ask you to do is identify the species of those trees, size and species, and consider a replanting plan associated with those. Understand that may be challenging here, but I'd like the applicant to take a look at what that could potentially look like.
What would your requirements be? Would it be like a certified arborist to identify the trees, or is it just for the naming of it? Or?
Honestly, I mean, unless it's something particularly exotic, I don't think we need an arborist to identify an oak tree.
Okay.
But I'm looking for diameter, breast height, and species.
Yep.
And what I'd be interested in there is the possibility of replanting those in some portion of the property in a way that makes some sense and attempts to restore the ecological function removed by those trees.
Yeah, if that's not a problem. If we were to do it, I'd prefer to keep it for maybe towards the front of the property, though, because I'm trying to avoid having any root structure go into this Presby system, if that would be a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I would agree. We certainly wouldn't want to imperil the septic system, but to the extent lost the directions. But if north is up, that northwestern corner of the property, if that's available for some planting, this is the sort of thing where we might be able to give you some direction, but what often works best is if you understand the spirit of what we're looking for and then come back with something that you're willing to propose.
Okay. So would you want to come back to the next meeting, or would we be able to have it of just kind of a sign off on the order condition potentially, the cabin for the trees?
Yeah, I think we'll probably have a couple other things we might want to end up talking about too. So.
Alex, can you talk a little bit about where groundwater is?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, let me pull up my other plan for my septic plan.
And the reason I ask is if you think we're going to have a space for dewatering.
I don't think we'll have to, because we're proposing the construction during the summer months. So I think it's going to be decently dry, but the groundwater is about I apologize. Let me put it back here. It's about 2 feet below ground surface. And we're digging, I don't think the possibility is, I don't think there'd be a situation with having to dewater. especially if we do it in the
What
summer.
made me think of it was on your notes, there's an overdig of 2 feet comment.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. That's just for the overdig for the septic for Title V compliance. Yeah, but I don't think dewatering will be a situation in here. I mean, it's especially if we plan on doing this during the summer months. Groundwater, when we did when I did the test pits, it was late December, but we had a fairly wet December, I believe, if I wasn't mistaken. And but if that's a situation you need to come by, I can make a note of it or follow your guidance.
Commissioners, what are your thoughts on renaturalization past the wall? What you'd like to see there?
Unless I misunderstand that the wall is right at the property line, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see it, but I don't think.
Oh, okay. I thought,
We can
sorry, I
impose
was
that.
looking. Okay.
Yeah, I guess the renaturalization would be essentially in this section. If you can see my mouse, more or less in this section.
Oh, okay.
It's disturbed. This section, I mean, it's we can allow for like shrubs of some sort. I mean, I didn't want to go this route if that was a situation, we can potentially, if you want to kind of let the grading ease into you in the conservation area and to allow naturalization that way to avoid the retaining wall, that would definitely be a possibility, but I figured that'd be a harder ask on your side.
Thank you for that. Commissioners, other questions? Do we want to set up a site walk?
So is the house being torn down, existing house?
Nope, it's staying as it is. It's just an upgrade for a septic. So the
That's
system.
it.
Yep.
Okay.
The wetlands here have, did you or a wetland scientist that you retained flag those wetlands, or are they based on other approved plans?
Yeah, so the property right next door was new construction and it was delineated by Goddard Consulting. So I spoke with the commissioner getting that information from the approved plans, and those are representative of where we stand now, or what I'm showing now.
Okay, so they're takeoffs from another recent.
Correct. Yeah, it's this property right here. I'm not sure. I believe it's 12 Ivy Road. So that was a recently passed plan.
So I guess I'm confused. Is it currently flagged?
Yeah, so the flags, when I did on site, the flags were located, but the delineation is based off the flags from the delineation was performed by the delineation is based off the delineation at 12 Ivy Road for this when this went for notice of intent filing, and I just have those overlaid on my plan, but the flags were still present during my when I collected the field data.
So the question is, have they been verified on 10 Ivy? Because we wouldn't, if we were working on 12, we would not have gone on to 10, onto another person's property to verify them.
The flags themselves were not on 10 Ivy or 12 Ivy. They're on the conservation land behind.
Okay.
Over here.
Okay.
So I'll show you if on the locus. Under Zero Lake Drive, these are where the wetland flags are. And this is 12 Ivy. And
Okay.
this is my property, my project.
Any commissioners have additional questions?
Yeah, one more thing. Board of Health, you said you've been in front of the Board of Health. Have they given you approval to go forward with this?
Yes, so I've been in front of Board of Health, and then Jim Gariffi, he wanted me to push the system another half a foot to the right. So that's and then he wanted me to resubmit that. So those are awaiting approval on him, but it was we've had a conversation and I can get confirmation, provide that it's going to be approved based on my last revision. Because I had to apply for almost 4 variances with the board, so we had to sit in front of the board for.
Yeah, and I guess that's why I wanted to check in, because if we were to tweak something, I wouldn't want to send you back into a revision loop there. That can be.
Yeah, I have some wiggle room on what it would have. I would be able to, but like essentially the system location, if I move it any more to left or right, I have to go for property line variances, and that's would just be quite slowing down. I prefer not to do that. But if it's a small minor things, we may be able to work around with the Board of Health, with Jim Griffey, I mean.
One last question here, Alex. In terms of the retaining wall, how does that work with the retaining wall on 12 Ivy? Like what?
So which retaining? You see this retaining?
Essentially, are we going to end up channelizing a whole bunch of water and just creating a stream through here that's going to incise in between those two retaining walls as it runs off?
Nope. So that was a situation that Jim from the Board of Health brought up as well. I'm proposing a swale between the properties to allow for the drainage from this septic system to flow down and flow back to mimic existing conditions towards the wetland area. So it's going to be proposed along the property line. I'm not entirely sure what their drainage plan is on 12 Ivy, but for 10 Ivy, I'm proposing a swale along the property line on the edge of the wall towards the wetland. And the wall is not a drastic wall. It's a very short wall. At highest peak, it's only a 2-foot wall.
Is anything presently staked out there, Alex, like the wall or the proposed system?
Not yet, because nothing has been staked out yet until.
Okay. Commissioners, with the proximity to the wetlands and town land, and do we want to do a site walk, or what is the pleasure of the commission?
I think that would be very helpful.
Okay. Alex, when do you think you could have some of those things staked out for us?
Yeah, so I take it you'd want the the system component, the system corners, and then the proposed wall locations staked out. Was that what you would like to see?
Historically, yeah. Commissioners, anything else you'd like to see?
You can put a flag around those trees that are to be removed also. That'd be helpful.
Yep, let's see, corner, and then trees, and then wall.
Since we're giving you our wish list here, I'd also like to understand where that property line is to the northwest, where that corner is, so that we could understand what that slice of unimpacted area is going to look like, particularly because I'm hoping that any tree replantings might be viable in there, but it'll be helpful in the field to understand where those lines are.
Okay, now I guess I asked my question, if then just tell me to stop if it's wrong. Would it be worthwhile if we were to push, if potentially, because we only have a couple feet we're dealing here at the grading, if we were able to have a grading easement to allow us to ease into these contours onto on the conservation land, would that be a possibility, or is that just off the table at this point?
I think this is just my 2 cents. I think you're going to find a retaining wall to be a much more expeditious process for your client.
Okay,
and I'm comfortable with it, particularly a 2-foot retaining wall.
Okay, yeah, that's not a problem. And for a time frame, I can try to get out there with April. Within the next 2 weeks, I can get out there. I can coordinate and let everyone know. And then would you guys, when works for you guys for timing wise for site walks?
So we meet again on May 2nd. Historically, what we like to do is to set a date while you have the commissioners here.
Yep.
Or you can take the route of informing Amy and Tim when you have everything staked, and then we can just try and go out there at our kind of leisure.
Yeah, let me just look at my calendar real quick, and I can get you guys a date if that works for you. So we are March 24th. I can apologize. It's the 18th, correct? I can aim for, say, how about March 24th? Yeah, not March, April 24th. I can get out there and have it staked out by, say, mid-afternoon.
Okay, so the 24th is next Monday. So usually what we like to do is work backwards a little bit. So if you're going to have it staked for the 24th, commissioners, do you want to pick a day that week that would work, dates and times? Because Alex, everybody works at different time intervals. So anyone want to throw something out?
Tuesday or
week.
Wednesday that week, around lunchtime, around noon would work for me.
So I'm hearing Wednesday, the 26th at noon.
Okay.
Okay. And
That can
who,
work for me as well.
okay, great. And then with your permission, Alex, if commissioners that can't make it at noon can have access to that site either later that day or the day after.
Yes, that's fine. That's
Okay.
good.
Tim, can you make note of that for Wednesday, 26th for Amy?
And then it's
Actually, she won't be there that week. I believe she's on vacation next week.
Just in terms of the calendar. So
Yeah.
you could send out a reminder.
For sure.
Okay. And if you have that done prior, Alex, just let Amy and Tim know in the conservation office.
absolutely. I'll do that, and then just want to summarize. So I'm gonna locate the trees, the diameter trees for the next plan as well. Stake out the property line, the SAS corners, and then the proposed walls.
Correct. And then your next hearing will be May the 2nd. And we're still waiting on your DEP number as well.
Okay. Sounds good to me. I'll get that on my calendar and get that going.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You as well. Okay. Next is it's 8:01. Next is the 8 o'clock project revision discussion, 38 Harwood, Mass DEP 204-0923. Who's here to address that? And then Tim, if you can call up that plan as well.
Yep. I'll share my screen here.
Richard, are you here?
I'm here.
Okay. It's all yours.
So I think we all had a chance to walk the property. So I think the idea is to move this planting section more to the middle of the lot, so I can get the grading to work with the water. And as far as, the look for the homeowners, it looks a little bit more appropriate to in the center of the property. And with the other one, it was too big, and it actually went up a slope. So that's why it's a little bit slower, a little bit smaller. It's about 45 feet long. It's like 20 feet off the lot line. In this middle of the center, it's 20 off the 50-foot offset, and then basically about 20 on the ends off the 50-foot offset.
Okay, commissioners, I know some people had a chance to go out. I've been out as well. Comments or questions for the applicant? And I think also of note, the patio is not shown, at least I don't think the patio is shown
No.
on this plan. Okay. Okay, commissioners? Anybody have any thoughts?
I have no problem with the proposal.
Same here. I don't have any issue with the proposed revision.
Can I just ask what? I guess I'm okay with it. I didn't make it up to the sidewalk, unfortunately, but I mean, if everybody else is okay with the movement, that's fine. But is there a numbers thing here? We was talking about reducing the size of it, and I can't really recall what we approved or what we discussed originally. But if we were expecting X amount of plants and shrubs and trees, and now we're talking about reducing that, I'd be curious what in numbers.
I agree. I'm not looking for a reduction of plantings.
Okay, so we've got, what do we got?
Yeah, or if there is a planting plan, if anything had been.
There is no, I didn't have any planting plan. There's just boulders and plants. I'm not sure. It's kind of hard to see the count. I think there's around 18 plants along with boulders. I mean, we can make it bigger. I mean, to the if you're looking at it to the right, going towards that maple tree, that is the 10-inch maple tree that has the benchmark in it. That's where the grade actually goes up a little bit. So I think what I was trying to do is get the grade off of that little hill and towards the center. If we need to go to the left, on the left side of the lot line and create a little bit bigger, that's fine. It's just I was trying to disturb the least amount back there and get the grading kind of to pull right in front of the center grade of that planting, so the water disperse and not be over the septic system.
So how far are you excavating behind that in terms of dropping that level down?
I don't plan on dropping anything down. I'm just going with the natural grade.
Okay.
The pool back there, we just gotta put some, where it got disturbed where the old patio was, back there. There was a patio in front of that pool that was about 35 feet by 10 to 12 feet wide. So that area had to get disturbed to fill in that pool. Other than that, I was just gonna have it, natural, meadow grow back there.
That area where the pool is that going to be loamed and seeded, or how is that going to be naturalized?
Well, I'll just put some wild grass back there, just so it grows like a meadow. It got disturbed last November when I had to dig up the patio and fill in the pool. I mean, it's not a huge area that got disturbed, but it's enough that I need to throw some stuff down.
Is that an option to supplement the plantings?
I guess we could. You throw some other ones behind it.
Yeah, because there's no vegetation presently at all.
No, there's about good probably 20 feet, and then towards the pool it gets wider because the patio is wider and bigger, but there's about a 20-foot path, if that, going out to it where I had to get the machine back there and fill in the pool.
Was the patio removed?
Yes. It was a concrete patio.
It does sound like we're going in the direction as a board of supporting this, but I'm going to speak up and say I don't find it to be particularly necessary to make this change. Certainly, if the applicant is concerned about the spacing of the vegetation area and wanted to move it as we're looking at it left or right, I would be fine with that. In terms of the stormwater flow and impacting the septic system, I think there are a lot of other things that could be done here that don't involve moving further into the buffer zone. The most extreme of which, not that I'm necessarily recommending it, is modifying how the patio drains or removing the patio, but French drains, lots of other options to manage that, regrading potentially around the septic, et cetera. I appreciate that the applicant has, I think, put forward the best justification they can, but I see this as more a desire to create more lawn space. And when I went back through the old minutes associated with this barrier area was thought out, discussed, the disposition of the meadow area behind. Not a hill I'm going to die on, but at least wanted to voice my general, I guess, lack of support for making this change.
So I generally agree with you, Chase, and I think I brought this up last week because I'm a little confused on how there's a grading issue when I'm looking at the contours on this plan. Does this barrier only create a grading issue because it was supposed to be X amount of feet high? Or is the natural grade there slopes towards the resource area, correct?
Well, if you walked it, I mean, a lot of these things that were shown, actual grades aren't, actual numbers. That's why I approached moving this, because when you go towards the 10-inch maple and the meadow area, the grade's actually higher over there. Where if you go into the, towards like basically the center of the pool, the grade goes down from there. Same with the septic. So from the right edge of the house, going back towards the right edge of the lot line, that grade continues to go down. But then when it goes up where the last part of this planting is proposed, it actually starts going up.
I'm still curious with the lack of full vegetation, if there would be better drainage if the site was fully stable.
Well, where the plants are and where the septic ends, there really isn't much for the water to drain off. So, I mean, over time, would it affect could it affect the septic? Yeah. So I just wanted to push it back a little bit and get the water to get away from the septic system more.
Commissioners, questions, thoughts? Do you want to have another site walk? What would you like to do?
I think at a minimum, I need to see a planting plan at this point. I guess I thought that was done with this. If we're going to go from 20 to, or 18 to 20 to 6 that are 7, what's ever shown here, that
Yeah, I think I get
There
around.
are some, in the approved plan, there are some shrub planting details. I don't think they're 4-inch thin branches foliage. There is some planting information. It's not clear to me yet if species and so on are called out associated with it.
Is the volume recognized, the amount of plantings? Or is it just as it is sketched on the plan?
It is, yeah, I mean, I think it's more a typical kind of description here, 3 to, I assume that's supposed to be 3 to 4 foot boulder buried 6 inches to ground. So yeah, it doesn't look like it's a detailed planting plan in terms of exact locations of individual shrubs and locations of boulders, unless I'm missing something in my quick review here.
I don't remember seeing anything when we had approved that, unfortunately.
I'd never got any numbers on amount of shrubs or bushes or.
Going forward, I'd like to have that outlined, but I'm concerned, and I know this was just a sketch, that it now is over the footpath and potentially closer to the meadow that's only getting mowed once a year.
So I was concerned about that as well, Sarah. I took a look at the minutes though, and what the minutes reflect when it was applied for was that there was no modification proposed for the footpath. The footpath was shown solely to make sure that the commission was aware that the property owners may be utilizing that portion of the property. And it wasn't necessarily, at least as I understood the minutes, necessarily intended to show anything other than where the area would be worn due to foot traffic.
one of my points is too, if you come back here 5 years from now, 10 years, whatever, you're gonna see what I proposed, whereas, anyone can make, a lawn behind it. Once the plants that I've got proposed or the area what I proposed, no one's gonna want or need to extend their lawn. I just, we know that happens, so I'm trying to, cut it halfway through to, to expect what possibly could happen in the future too. So if they get, I already sold the house. I don't need to be doing this. I'm just trying to do it for them. Obviously it's to look better and to have a little bit of bigger lawn and concern over the grading and where the water's going to flow. So I'm just trying to give them a better product here.
Well, we appreciate that, but there's still not a certificate of compliance on the lot.
Right. No, I know. I realize that. But I mean, if you see where they proposed that planting, it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I know it was just thrown on paper, and I think people got a better view of it when they went to the site to understand it a little bit better. So I'm just trying to work with everyone.
I'm going to revise my comments earlier about a planting plan. There is a planting schedule here: 14 common junipers, 5 early azaleas. The junipers 15 to 18 inches. The azaleas 24 to 40 inches.
Okay, I mean that's good to hear. I think that needs to be held to.
In terms of quantities.
I mean, yeah, I guess compared to looking at dots on a sketch, right?
Is there a middle ground in between the proposed and what was agreed upon in terms of splitting the difference, perhaps? Keeping the amount of plantings, I don't think that is going to get modified, but the location?
And my understanding for this, we're putting this in to limit somebody from creating lawn past that point, correct? Chase, who were you out at the site? Wait, I guess I'm kind of listening to what Richard just said. Do you see that potentially being an issue in the future?
I mean, to the extent that it's always a potential issue that property owners who have wetlands choose to violate the Wetland Protection Act and the order of conditions that apply to their property. Yeah, I mean, sure. But it's not, certainly there are a lot of other houses in town with a hell of a lot less lawn for lots of other reasons. I mean, look at the one we just looked at. Smaller house, but same story, right? No real lawn.
Yep.
This has a pretty, in my opinion, a meaningful lawn, and this would expand it, no doubt. But my expectation would be that the property owners are fully aware of what their order of conditions require, and these plantings are not exactly going to be trivial to just rip out and, create a putting green back there.
I mean, I said the same thing when we walked the land. I mean, obviously it was pre-existing, it was used before. So that's part of my argument is that obviously it was used as a lawn. You can see there's a pool back there. So if again, I wouldn't even be talking to you if there was a new lot proposed. I know, so I'm just trying to see if we can get compromise a little bit.
Okay, commissioners, we've got to make some decisions. What would we like to do?
You may not have consensus here, Sarah, but it seems like maybe barring a sidewalk from Kyle, most folks have what they need to cast a vote anyway.
I didn't have an opportunity to see the site. I would be interested in seeing it if possible before making a decision. I do trust the insight of the members that have viewed the site and are comfortable with the proposed change. But I do see Chase's points, and I am kind of on the fence where I would go with this. But at a minimum, maybe we should wait until we see the updated planting plan with the new quantities, or the same quantity and maybe the different types of plants before moving forward. But I would absolutely love to see the site before making a decision, if possible.
I think that would behoove the applicant to let 2 more commissioners find it prior to the May 2nd. Perhaps the 2 of you can come up with time to do that now, because I don't believe you'd be in full support this evening.
I mean, I've seen this. I was more asking of other folks' opinion based on their sidewalk. I know I didn't make the most recent one, but I was out there for the initial one. I think it was just me and Amy, but so I'm very familiar with the site, and I knew about the pool and the patio. I was more curious about other people's thoughts on what they got out of the sidewalk.
What would we like to do?
I think it's a question for the applicant right now. If you're willing to push this 2 more weeks to give any other commissioners who want to take a look an opportunity to take a look. And then we pick it up on May 2nd. Or I think it's certainly within your rights to ask for a vote too.
I'd just take a vote now, because now I'm, it's kind of my fault. I brought this to the table too late. And I'm running out of time. I've got to put some AC condensers in, and I got a loom pile right next to the house. So I need to start working out there and get this project done. So I would just go with a vote now, and whatever you guys decide.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that we would accept the location of the new new plantings with the same amount of plantings
Correct.
as that was in the first approved. So I will ask the commissioners who is in favor of the submitted plan, or actually just do a roll call favor, yes or no. So Andrew, I'll let you do that.
Certainly. Okay, so we'll do that. Carl?
Carl, I'm in favor.
Kyle?
Yeah, Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Brian?
Brian Crowley, aye.
Sarah?
Sarah Seward, nay.
Chase?
Chase Carvig, nay.
And I'm going to vote nay, just because I'm not familiar with the site, and based off of what I've heard, I can only use that in my judgment, but you still have your majority.
Okay. Commissioners, okay with that? That's
Absolutely.
okay. Thank you, Richard. Good luck. If you have any questions, give us a call. We will
Can
need.
you repeat the decision?
Yep. So it's in favor for you. What we would
Okay.
ask you to do is to specifically denote where the new plantings are going to go, and to just remember that you'll have to have the same variety and quantity as approved prior.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. It is 8:23. Next will be we are not hearing Cricket Lane this evening. Next is the enforcement order update on 15-16-0 Thompson Ipswich Drive and Foss Place. Is anyone here to speak to that?
I'm here this evening.
If you would like to state your name and address, that would be great, and it's all yours.
Yep, good evening. Mark Gallagher from Seal Harbor Development. I live at 307 Harwood Ave in Littleton. My office is at 179 Great Road in Acton. I want to thank you for your time this evening. From our last visit that we had together, we put all the erosion control in place prior to the date that you had provided to us. We had it inspected. Amy's been out on a couple of occasions. With the snow and things, we had to wait for that to abate. But Amy was out this past week and met with Bill from Places Associates, and they verified the wetlands lines and walked the property in general. We have submitted, and I'm not sure the correct terminology, so I may get this wrong, but we've submitted for, at Amy's suggestion, we submitted for determination on running the water line up Foss Lane. The water district is requiring us to run a 6-inch water main up with a hydrant at the end on Foss in order to support the construction of the home on Foss. On the Ipswich side, they have verified the wetlands. Amy had a couple of recommendations, which they've done. And I don't know that has been updated in terms of the plan for you this evening. But I know that the Foss plan has been updated, and I believe it was provided to you so we could look at it on Zoom.
Yeah, I've got
this evening.
that. Sorry, I've got that if you guys would like me to share that with you.
Yeah, why don't you put that up, Tim? Thanks.
So this is the proposed plan on Foss Lane. There was an existing, or there still is an existing building there on site. We've just recently received the demolition permit. And as I don't know if you recall the conversation previously, but there were multiple buildings on the site. The building towards the farm fields, the circular one here on the top right-hand corner, that was an observatory with a telescope on the inside. Then there was to the Foss Road side of that, there was a shed that was there. And then the primary building was a 2-bedroom cottage, which sits in the middle there in the dark square. And then there was a additional art studio to the far left-hand corner of the property, closest to the wetlands out there, that we're not at this point applying for anything on. That is outside the 50-foot buffer, but within the 100-foot. I know that Amy and Bill walked the line because it was a question when this was done about the exact location of the wetland line, and there were no adjustments to my knowledge on that line itself that sits on what was proposed a long time ago as Tracy Place. So the 50-foot buffer.
Mr. Gallagher, can I interrupt you real quick?
Anytime you want,
because we've got a couple wetland lines here. I just want to make sure I'm getting the facts right. So
sure.
You said the wetland line that runs along Tracy Place, there were no modifications to?
Right. My understanding, I was not there that day, but my understanding is on the Ipswich property, on the bottom right, right-hand corner as you come up Foss, there was an adjustment right there to that first set of flags.
Okay.
Along that, exactly. And
sorry
those
to
were
interrupt you. I just wanted to make sure I understood which lines we were more confident.
Oh, no.
And Tim, is that your recollection as well? Tim, I think
Yeah.
you've been in these plans.
Yep, I was on that site walk as well, and that is my consensus.
Okay.
So the ones on Tracy Place were verified, which puts the 50-foot buffer. If you were out there on the site walk, it puts it beyond the fence that was existing there when they had their dogs. So that is the 50-foot line that has been established. And then the 100-foot line is on the other side of the art studio, just outside of the area where the new proposed septic system is. So what we've been able to do is to contain the new construction of the new proposed building along Foss outside of the 100-foot buffer. We've also been able to contain the septic system and its grading outside of the 100-foot buffer as well.
So I appreciate these plans. I am a little bit confused of we're still under two separate enforcement orders, and I don't believe I've seen the restoration plan for submittal yet. Has that been submitted?
No, because it was my understanding, and Amy is obviously not on tonight. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I wasn't aware that Amy
But
was
you
not.
had the commissioners.
Right, no, I wasn't aware that Amy wasn't going to be here. Amy's been working with Sue, and Amy was suggested that we came in with to show you the plan of the proposed water line with the extension with the fire hydrant at the end, and also to present this plan this evening. I'm happy to have our engineering firm give you a proposal on the restoration on Foss for the May 2nd meeting. That was not something that was asked of us to come and speak with you this evening. I'm sorry.
So I had thought that this, as stated, is discussion on the enforcement orders, and of that, with the enforcement orders are the things that have to be done to fulfill that, and one of them is the restoration.
Okay.
But I'm sure the commissioners are happy to hear about the water line, and then we can address that with the other parcel and how that is impacted in the resource area with the water line as well.
Yeah, I was hoping to get some feedback this evening on this specific lot as to what you would like us to propose for replanting plan. You know, we didn't cut any trees within the 50-foot buffer on this lot. We cut trees between the 50 and the 100-foot. And I would just like to get some feedback so that we can provide you with a plan that meets your needs. As I said during our first meeting, this is grounds that I've never been on before, so I'm looking for some direction because I quite honestly don't have the experience to provide you with what you're looking for.
And let me give a little context to the commissioners there. So looking at the inventory of the trees that were removed on this piece of the property, the one, again, I'm losing north and south here, the one on the right, we were looking at 13 trees. Most of them were under 15 inches. 3 of the trees were 22, 22, and 24 inches diameter. Those were all oaks. Some maples, some oaks. Yeah.
So you've obviously hired an engineer that works with restoration. So historically, we are more of a reactionary. Once we see something that's been put in front of us, we can then do guidance. It's not our obligation as commissioners to tell you what to do. We've done that with the Enforcement Act, asking for the restoration plan. But commissioners, do you have any input for Mr. Gallagher?
Yeah, given this scenario, I do think a little quantitative guidance is probably worthwhile here. My personal expectation is that the replacement here is more than a 1-to-1 ratio, and that's to be reflective of the size and maturity of some of the trees that were removed. And I would ask the applicant to consider what sort of replanting plan or ratio would be feasible or viable in the existing property that currently sits here. Certainly, I would rather see the trees replanted in proximity to where they were removed to replicate the ecological function that they had. But in any case, it's very, very difficult to replicate the ecological function of a stand of 2 to 3 foot. 2 foot rather, in this case, oak trees, but something more than a 1-to-1 ratio would be my bare minimum expectation here.
Okay, thank you for your input, Chase.
When was the site cleared?
I'm trying to remember when the enforcement order came, probably 3 weeks
Enforcement
prior
order
to
is
the,
dated January 10th of this year.
yeah, sometime in December.
Okay.
Well, if the commissioners don't have any other guidance, let's talk about the water line and also the adjacent property. And because that does fall within a resource area. And I'm not sure if the end of the hydrant of the end of Foss actually falls on the property on, as we're looking at it, the property on the right.
You know, I'm sorry, that the hydrant is shown on our property on the left-hand side on Foss. So it's not quite the end of the property. I'm sorry, did you freeze?
No, I'm just looking at that, looking at the 100-foot line. So on the property on the left.
What's the current condition of Foss Place? The road?
It's a paved road.
Not to the back of the property, though. It stopped.
It stops about where the shed is shown up here. That's about the distance that it's paved. It doesn't pave all the way to the property line of the adjacent property.
I'm of the mind here, Sarah, that we can often do multiple things at once, but enforcement or considering an application before us while there's open enforcement orders is probably not something that is best done in parallel. That is, we should resolve the enforcement order before we take this up.
Commissioners, are we in agreement of that?
Yes.
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 Okay. Then we will thank you for your input this evening. I do want to provide you an update, and we'll come back with a planting plan for you on for the next meeting on May 2nd. Is there anything else, Sarah, that we need to do?
I do not have the enforcement order on my screen. I think to just follow that verbatim, and then if you have questions, just email in, but we'll have this carried on to Tim. If you can make note that this will carry on to the May 2nd agenda. Yep. And then Mr. Gallagher will let you know what time.
Super. Great.
Sarah, quick, as Chase had brought up, the number of trees that got removed and what we're looking for potential replacement, is that laid out in the order, or is we have not defined that yet?
No, that's not.
Yeah, we didn't define that, Carl. In fact, I looked specifically for that language in the enforcement order, and the language in the enforcement order simply says that that the property owner will provide a replacement plan. Interestingly enough, by February 7th, but I think we also agreed to extend.
But Carl, that will be up for review. So you can add comments to the suggestions. So that's not that is a suggested plan. So the commissioners still have to review that.
Okay.
And it sounds like Sue and others are working on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Gallagher, while you're here too, I think another element of that plan that you need to contemplate is that if there is any debris, piles of chips, etc., that should be incorporated into your restoration plan. That is,
I'm sorry, piles of chips, James. I'm sorry.
To the extent that there are piles of chips or debris associated with the tree removal that occurred that is subject to the enforcement order, your restoration plan should also contemplate removal of those piles of chips and restoration in not just the replanting context, but restoration in the grade and sort of, I guess, remaining context there, the piles, the development, etc. See what that.
Yeah, to my knowledge, there are no chips to the rear of the property, if that's what you're relating to. I believe the only pile of chips that we have now is to the front, outside of the 100-foot buffer. They were never.
And I didn't mean that there was. I just didn't want to catch you wrong-footed when you came in with
no,
what you thought was exactly what we were asking for, and then we threw you a curveball.
Well, that was all grassed area in use up to the fence. So I would assume whatever we restore, we would restore it back to its original form. But thank you very much for your comment.
And to be just another point of clarification, for the next meeting, we're talking about both enforcement orders, correct? Both properties for your restoration.
We'll give you, sure, but they're not tied together. They're two different ownerships. But we would, of course, propose them both, sure.
Okay. All right. Yep. Thank you. Anyone else have any other questions for Mr. Gallagher? Okay. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for your update.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone.
Yep. The 820 has been postponed. So I think, as you can see, our continued list is getting longer and longer at times. But our next meeting will be May 2nd. And then, Tim, if you can send out a reminder for the Wednesday 26th at noon site walk.
Sure.
That would be great for 10 Ivy.
Yep.
Does anyone have anything else?
Oh, Sarah, did we want to address the geocaching proposal by the Girl Scouts?
Did they come back in?
No.
Yeah, they would need to come in.
What?
So we can
When is it? I guess
they have plenty of time. It's May 7th. We still have a week.
Yeah, but it's not something that they can just. They kind of need to know if they're going to be able to do it or not. I mean, 4 days.
But isn't it part of? I want them to do it, but isn't it part of their learning process that someone has to come in?
I don't disagree with that. I completely agree with that. And I think when I talked to them, they were willing to do that. I think an informal, yes, you're going to be able to do this will benefit them rather than them coming in on the 2nd and not knowing. You know, they have to plan and invite other troops or whoever they're going to run this for. If they don't know they're going to have it before the 2nd, that could cause some issues.
I'm in support of it as long as somebody comes in on the 2nd.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I can reach out to them.
Yeah, and then that's sort of what I was going for, is giving them some reasonable expectation that, barring some outrageous variant on geocaching that I've never heard of before, it would be perfectly fine, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I'll reach out to Melissa and reiterate that somebody should come in on the 2nd.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah.
One other thing, Sarah, maybe this should motivate the rest of us, but we should. He's not here to receive the credit, but congratulate Michael for completing the.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I was going to lead with that, but he's not here tonight, so we'll put that on for the.
We'll get it again next time, but I didn't want to forget it while it was fresh too.
Oh, for sure. Awesome. All right, Tim, anything else? Thanks for hosting us tonight.
Yeah, no problem. I don't have anything else on my side.
Okay. All right, everyone. I would make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 8:43 on April 18th. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Chase.
Chase Gerbig, aye.
Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Carl.
Tom Melberg, aye.
And myself, aye. It is unanimous.
Okay. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.